It is Wednesday, my dudes, and you are watching an extremely special edition of The Sweat presented by Comcast Business, powering possibilities with the next generation 10G network. Alongside Jesse Cofield, I'm Emerson Lancia. So coming up, we got our usual preview of tonight's MLB slate, the insane offensive history that was made last night on the diamond. Plus, we're getting after some NFL futures as well.
First things first, though, we are diving into this year's final major, the Open. That's right. With the help of our friends from Comcast Business.
Hello!
Starting with the Comcast Business Tour Top 10. So this emphasizes player performance by rewarding the top 10 players in the FedEx Cup standings at the end of the FedEx Cup regular season.
One thing to consider here looking at this list, there just isn't much course history here, considering many of these guys have never played it, and almost no one has played it more than once. Of course, Rory winning it like a decade ago, Ricky Fowler down there at 8, finishing second. He was the only dude, I believe, to have all 4 rounds in the 60s back in 2014. DK's Jeff Ulrich, RotoWire senior golf writer Len Hochberg. I am so happy to have you two here. We have you here for a healthy dose of price check. There is a big millionaire contest on DraftKings. All of you need to stuff yourselves inside. Let's start with world number 1 Scotty Scheffler here, Jeff, listed at $12.5, so that's $600 more than any other golfer in the field. Not a ton of Open experience on his resume. How close is he to a must roster?
Well, the thing about Scotty Scheffler this week, it's not that he's not the best player in the field. I mean, he's been the best player in the world over the last couple months. Just rankings aside, just from a strokes gained perspective, the thing with Scotty Scheffler this week is he's $12,500. He's, like you said, he's $600 more expensive than Rory McIlroy. It's not easy to build lineups with Scotty Scheffler this week, unless you might want to think about dipping down underneath 6K, which you can do on DraftKings this week because they've opened up the pricing. They've made Scheffler more expensive, but they've also opened it up to where there's now sub 6K golfers. So it's hard for me to sit here and say a guy 12.5 in a field this deep is a must roster, but I do think that what we've seen from Scotty Scheffler, he is someone that if his ownership is going to be lower in GPPs, I would really want to be overweight. So I think the biggest thing for me is Scheffler is a golfer you should be overweight on. He's been way too good over the last couple months. He proved that, a links course, fine. He'll top 5 on a links course too, just like he did in Scotland. And if you gave me any comparable for this course for Royal Liverpool, I would actually probably say it's most like TPC Scottsdale. It's open to the wind. It's not a traditional links course. It's more technical and smaller greens. And where did Scotty Scheffler win already this year was TPC Scottsdale. So I won't call him a must roster, but man, a guy you want to be overweight on this week for sure.
Len, 19 straight starts now of T12 or better. That sounds like someone you need to have in your lineup.
And 7 in a row with top 5 appearances. But when I first saw the price, what did they come out? Saturday on the weekend, $12,500 was a real surprise. It was a real surprise to see the whole pricing system, but okay. But not only is he $600 more than Rory McIlroy, $1,800 more than Cameron Smith, the defending champion, more than $2,000 more than Brooks Koepka. I mean, we're talking about the difference between a guy and a $9,000 golfer and a golfer in the upper 6,000s. It just seems completely out of whack. You want to get, at least one of these 10,000 or close to them guys in your lineup. And I think with the pricing, the way it's set up, you can easily get 2 of them to really enhance your chance to picking the winner. And I think if you pick Scotty Scheffler, who I think will play well, he'll get a top 5, but he's not worth anywhere near. This is like what Tiger would have been priced if DFS was around in the Tiger heyday.
Yeah, remember how brown this course was and dry it was when Tiger won here as well? Taking irons off the tee nonstop.
Gross.
Famously, one driver all week. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, you have
Won't be like that this year, though. Won't be like that.
Much greener.
Thankfully.
Beautiful.
Just a lot of rain. All right, you have a handful of top 10 guys, Len, listed in that 10 to 12 range. So tons to choose from, but who stands out to you?
Well, Rory McIlroy, we have to talk about him. And, of course, as soon as he wins the Scottish Open, we start thinking, we collectively, will this hurt him or help him? Should he have not won the Scottish Open? If Robert McIntyre had won the Scottish Open, he'd still be celebrating. He'd still be answering text messages. I don't want to minimize Rory McIlroy winning a golf tournament, but he can handle it. He knows how much to celebrate. He knew as soon as it went in, okay, Open Championship, he'll be fine. This will only help his chances for the Open Championship. Cameron Smith, he showed last year that how good he can be around the green. This is where these tournaments are won and lost in the Open Championship. Driver is less important here than maybe just about anywhere. Yeah, distance matters, but it's all 125 yards and in, and he is really good there. And Victor Hovland, who just had his breakthrough win at the Memorial, he was fourth at the Open last year with 0 chipping skills, and now miraculously in the 12-month period, less than 12 months, he's learned how to chip. Those 3 guys, McIlroy, Smith, and Hovland, if I were putting a lineup together, I'd try and get 2 of those guys in there.
All right, Jeff, who are you trying to get in there from that 10 to 12K range?
I mean, the guys who interest me the most are the ones at the bottom. Victor Hovland, we've seen him pop in the majors already this year. First round leader Masters, head-to-head with Brooks Koepka, and really only got taken out of that head-to-head matchup at the PGA because of sort of just a bad luck drive off the tee late in the round on Sunday. Hovland's done great at TPC Sawgrass. Like I said, he was top 5 there. And I like Xander Schauffele this week. A guy who just seems to get pumped up every major, but nobody is talking about him this week. He's only 10,100. He came into Carnoustie in 2018. He was the leader of this event. He's done well in the Open. He's a really solid straight driver of the golf ball. And, he's not going to get in trouble necessarily off the tee. And there is some internal out of bounds here that come into play. It has me a little bit of wary about Cameron Smith this year. Not that I don't think the setup is good for him, but, he definitely Smith's off the tee game can get a little wonky. I think Schauffele and Hovland are just great prices. And if you wanted to start a balanced build, going with both of those players, again, we have such suppressed pricing down, even in the low 6K range where there's good names. Starting with Schauffele and Hovland is a really interesting way to start lineups this week as well.
All right, Jeff, you keep referencing how low down the salary board you will go, but let's go between that $9,900 and $8,000 range because there is a boatload of talent within that department. Which golfer has the most upside here?
I mean, I think in terms of just like when we're talking about price to upside, I mean, Hideki Matsuyama is a golfer to me at 8,900 that, again, not getting much love this week. Even if you just look to his betting odds, they're just inflated. I mean, Hideki Matsuyama at 8,900, he missed the cut in Detroit. Like, so what? I mean, it's just a weaker field event. If you had looked at what he had done before that, I mean, he was absolutely mashing the ball from a ball striking perspective. This is a player who finished top 10 at the Open in his first attempt back in 2013. I believe this is going to be his 9th career Open Championship start. Another player who TPC Sawgrass, good connections, 5th there this year. He's played well in Florida over his career. Good, just target golfer. I think the more technical setup here is going to help Hideki. So I really like him. Tommy Fleetwood, obviously at 9,300, playing extremely good golf, and the guy right below him as well, Dustin Johnson. Do not overlook him. Has played really solid in the majors. So as you mentioned, I mean, I didn't even talk about the top of the 6K range. Colin Morikawa, another guy like this range is absolutely loaded. And if you are going balanced here, you can go extreme balance and just start in the 9K range. That's how loaded this range is this week for DFS.
All right, Len, what's the move here in this price range?
Yeah, I agree with Jeff. I like a lot of the 9s. I like Jordan Spieth at 9,700. He shows up in the Open Championship every year, even during his 4 years off at the Bermuda Triangle or wherever he was. He's never missed a cut here. He was top 10 last year. He's won it, obviously. Maybe in some ways the best price on the whole board, the most favorable price to get him at under $10,000. Fleetwood 93. Shane Lowry, 91. Yes, Dustin Johnson, 92. He's an all or nothing. We saw what he could do at the U.S. Open. He's not for the faint of heart. He's not a cash game play. I would say more of a GPP. If you're a conservative player, Dustin Johnson may not be for you. And interestingly enough, for me, the 8,000s, almost the entire 8,000s is a dead zone for me. I mean, it's just these guys, Burns, Homa, Justin Thomas. These guys, there's really hardly anything I like at all in the 8,000s, and that doesn't happen too often.
All right, Len, 8,000s are a dead zone for you, but what about that 7,000 price range? Who do you like here?
Nope.
Yeah, much better, much better. Few guys I like in there. Minwoo Lee, 7,700. When I started to do my research, I was very surprised to see he's finished in the top 25 in every major in the past year, 2022, 2023. Fifth place at the U.S. Open, 21st last year at the Open Championship. Yes, he's only 24, very inconsistent, has some bad weeks. The bad weeks don't seem to come in the biggest tournaments. He's an aggressive play too, so maybe not for a cash game or the faint of heart, as I said, but I like him a lot to have incredibly good upside. 7,400 Ryan Fox, always say maybe the most anonymous member of the top 50 in the world. He's a good player. He's been showing up in all the majors. Just had a top 25 at the PGA, just missed at the Players earlier this year, made the cut at the U.S. Open. He's only 7,400. And 7,300, Brian Harman, who had a terrible, terrible first half of the year, has really come on, started to play well with a couple of good rounds at the U.S. Open, didn't have a good finish, second at the Travelers, ninth at the Rocket Mortgage, 12th last week in Scotland, and but yeah, he was sixth last year in the Open Championship.
All right, where can we find value in that 7K range, Jeff? You've been talking about how you want to go low down the board here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you can. I like going to the lower sort of part of the 7K range. I mean, Minwoo Lee is probably the player I'd be most interested in. Len obviously already talked about him, but we've got some names, 7,500 and below. Joaquin Niemann at 7,500, supremely talented ball striker. He's been a little bit up and down this year, but he was really good at the Masters. People forget, he's top 20 there. I just think he's going to set up really well for the course. Siwoo Kim is another guy, just plenty of upside on a course like this. We mentioned the TPC Sawgrass connection. Kim was 15th at the Open last year. I think this setup is even better for him. He's been one of the most consistent players just from a ball striking iron perspective all year. And then Chris Kirk at 7,000 played really well at the John Deere. He didn't quite have the greatest final round there, but the irons came back, and he's a fantastic wedge player. He is one of those players who has actually played Royal Liverpool. He was actually top 25 here in 2014. So Chris Kirk at 7K flat, I think there's just a lot of intriguing value names there, 7,500 and below.
All right, bargain bin pick time, Jeff Ulrich, who has been pushing the below 6K narrative. We will allow you to go below $7,000 now, and let's keep in mind the big, beefy, and thirsty John Daly is at the bottom of the salary price range at $5,500.
So, I mean, what? I can't go below 6K for my pick? I mean,
No, you can. It's just below $7,000. You can do whatever you'd like.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. I'm going to do whatever I like now, but I'm going to keep it fairly simple here. Jordan Smith is 6,800. You're probably wondering who the heck Jordan Smith is. Just a really talented English golfer. He's 30 years old. He's grinded it out most of his career on the DP World Tour, but this guy gained over 6 strokes ball striking at the Scottish Open last week. He was 12th. He has played extremely good golf all season. We had the Scottish narrative in Scotland last week. Robert McIntyre played really well. Why not the English guy in England this week? I mean, Jordan Smith is a player who I think is primed for some kind of breakthrough performance. 6,800 is way too cheap. Nobody is talking about him at all. Like I said, coming off a great week. If he had putted well last week, even just putted to field average, a little bit better than average, he's top 5. He's probably one of the highest owned golfers on this slate, right up there with Bobby Mack. I think Jordan Smith at 6,800 is a fantastic play this week. He's consistent off the tee. He's going to take the trouble out of there. And if you want another Englishman under 6K, Matthew Southgate, boy, I may have to make a lineup with him. Maybe him and Scotty Scheffler together. But 5,600 for Southgate, great links player. If you want to go below 6K, that's the guy I'd target.
Below 7K, Len, take your pick.
Yeah, Jeff said nobody's talking about Jordan Smith. Well, I was about to. No, a very good play. Just quickly, he was 20th at the U.S. Open, really under the radar, good play. If you want to pivot off of Robert McIntyre, 6,800, he probably would have been priced a lot higher if they waited a few days till the Scottish Open was over. But like that said, if you do like Robert McIntyre, and there's a lot to like this week, don't avoid him just because he's going to be highly owned. You have 5 other ways to differentiate yourself. I will go even lower, 6,600. Patrick Harrington, the guy makes the cut at the, just missed the top 25 at the U.S. Open. He made the cut at the PGA. He was 10th at the Valero. He made the cut at Bay Hill. He's 183rd in the world. He's better than a lot of guys in this field. And maybe he even should be on the Ryder Cup team, but that's maybe a story for another day. Don't sleep on him at 6,600. Three guys in the 5,000s, I think worth attention. Richie Ramsey, a veteran Scotsman. The more the weather is, he's $5,900. He made the cut. We just need him to make the cut to get to the weekend to hope for the best. Marcel Siem at 5,800, German player, another very good year this year. And I also was going to say, piggybacking on Jeff, Matthew Southgate at 5,600. You can't get much lower than that.
All right, who is your pick to be the highest scoring DFS golfer at the Open Championship? Len, who you rocking with?
The highest scoring DFS golfer, that sounds like who I think is going to win. And I think this is not a three under, this is not a 5 under, this is not an 8 under course. This is not what the Open Championship is this year. The weather will be there, but not extreme like we saw at Sunday in Scotland. I think we're going to get into the mid-teens. You're going to have to make some putts. There's nobody better at making putts in pressure situations than Cameron Smith. I think he will go back-to-back. He just plays around the green better than anyone else in the world. He can handle the pressure. He was top 10 at the U.S. Open and at the PGA, two courses, long courses where driver, his worst club, and he still was able to get in the conversation on the periphery of it. I look for a big week from Cameron Smith this week.
Jeff, who's your pick to be the highest DFS scoring golfer at the Open Championship?
Well, I guess this is kind of just a cowardly move, and I usually don't do this, but I'm just going to go with the most expensive player, and I'm going to go with Scottie Scheffler. I think a great way to do it if you're betting and playing DFS this week is, Scottie Scheffler's betting number is not very big, but if you go overweight on him in DFS and daily fantasy lineups, you're going to get exposure to a Scottie Scheffler win in that realm. And I really think that's the play because 12,500 people are going to keep him lower owned. He's been hitting it too well, just far, far too well to not win at some point. I'm going to go with Scheffler here. Again, really like the comparisons this week to the TPC Sawgrass with Royal Liverpool. And I think that's going to benefit Scheffler from this being a little bit of a non-traditional links course.
Good stuff, guys. Len, thank you for the help.
See you,
Jeff,
Len.
we're going to talk to you a little later when we talk best bets for the Open coming up.
All right, but first we need to talk about tonight's MLB slate and why last night on the Diamond was the worst night in history to bet the under. We are back in like a minute or so. I don't really know. Okay, about last night. It was an insanely and historic day on the diamond. And I'm talking offense. A lot of dudes who can swing good wood. So, across Major League Baseball, listen to this. 12 teams, that's a dozen, scoring at least 10 runs. Over here, Tom, go to the tweet.
That's only the third time in MLB history at least 12 teams scored double-digit runs. And
what?
First time
Yep.
since July 4th, 1894.
Worst day ever to bet the under. We all know July 4th, America's birthday, day that we celebrate George Washington having his first glizzy. By the way, it's National Hot Dog Day. Let's not bury the lead.
I did see that. I'm surprised that you did not come in with a breakfast hot dog.
I know.
Yeah.
Me too.
Honestly, out of character for you. But anyway, as for tonight, 8-game slate. So let's welcome in DraftKings contributors Gary and Thorne, Tanner Kern, and VSiN's Danny Burke to a special edition of The Sweat presented by Comcast Business, powering possibilities with the next generation 10G network.
D-backs and Braves on there again.
Yeah.
Like, that game was unbelievable last night. A thrilling 16-13 win over the Braves for Arizona. That was one of 4 games that saw both teams score at least 10 runs.
So everybody should take the over.
Crazy!
But before we get into that, let's talk DFS here. Is there a pitcher, Danny, priced at $8K or higher that you need to have in your lineup?
I'm looking at Justin Verlander tonight, and I know he's been underperforming, relatively speaking, but I think it's a really good opportunity tonight against the White Sox, a team that, yes, their bats finally came alive last night, but since June 1st, this team is 23rd in weighted runs created plus against right-handed pitching. Justin Verlander also has been pitching better at home at Citi Field. He has a 3.72 ERA. And his xFIP is concerning, right? It's higher at 457. But again, this is a great bounce back opportunity against a incredibly volatile White Sox lineup. And what also is a struggling part of Verlander's forte is that he's been walking guys, 3 walks per 9 innings. But the White Sox, one of the worst teams at drawing walks in Major League Baseball, they're just ranking 25th at about 7% walk rate. So I think Verlander bounces back, and I think he would be one of the top tier pitchers that you should add to your slate.
All right, Tanner, give me a top tier pitcher over 8K.
I'm going to go with Luis Castillo for $9,300. When you look at Castillo as of late, he hasn't been great, but the one thing that he does exceptionally well is strikeout batters. And when you look at the Minnesota Twins, they lead Major League Baseball in strikeouts. So I think it's a good opportunity to pair there. You're going to get a lot of points for that. Hopefully Castillo can keep the ball in the yard. He's been actually very good in his past couple starts in the past 15 days, 12 innings. He's got a 2.25 ERA, and opponents are batting just 196 off him. Again, the home runs are a massive concern for him, but I like his ability to get out of jams tonight against the Twins. I think we're going to see a little regression from Minnesota's lineup after a big offensive night yesterday. The Mariners bounce back, and Castillo is going to be a huge part of that.
Gary, and you could snap up Jose Barrios for 8,200 here.
Not against the Padres. No, thank you. No, I think these two guys have already identified my 2 favorite pitchers on this slate. Obviously, the White Sox make virtually every single right-handed pitcher they face look like Cy Young. And as Tanner mentioned, the Twins strike out a lot. And I think that's why I will lean with Luis Castillo, even though he's slightly more expensive at $9,300. I just think there's a lot of safety there. I mean, it's not just that the Twins lead baseball in strikeout rate. It's that they are a full percentage point higher than any other team. They are basically on their own tier at 26.9%. I like what Castillo has done so far this season. He hasn't looked amazing the last couple weeks, but he's still got a sub-3 ERA for the season. His 6.2% walk rate is the lowest mark of his career. That used to be a very big issue for Luis Castillo in Cincinnati. So I think he's really turned a corner. I think he's at a good price tonight, and I think the matchup's fantastic.
All right, Tanner, start us off at second base with a value pitcher under $8,000.
So I like Kyle Hendricks tonight for 7,200. He's been a lot better than expected in 2023. His past couple starts haven't gone his way necessarily. The Red Sox and Yankees did blast him, but I'll tell you what, the Nationals are not the Yankees and the Red Sox. They're not that good of a baseball team, especially off right-handed pitching, which Kyle Hendricks is a righty. They're hitting just 250 off righties this season compared to 270 off lefties. They're also 27th in home runs. So I do believe that Hendricks is going to be able to settle in. He's not going to have to worry about the long ball as much, and he's going to find his groove early. early, and that's going to be critical for his confidence in the spot. He's got a 3.57 ERA with a whip right around 1. In June was his best month of the season. Opponents only batted 162 off him. It was a great stretch for him. He's starting to get a little colder, but it's a good bounce back spot tonight against the Nationals for a very good price of $7,200.
Gare Bear, I say pitcher under $8,000. You say
Chase Silseth, I guess.
What?
This is not the strongest slate when it comes to pitching options below $8,000. I don't think we're going to have 12 teams scoring 10 runs tonight, but it might have a similar vibe because there are not a lot of great names to choose from down here. So I will go with Silseth, who has not looked great at the MLB level, but he has looked good at AAA as a starter. 9 starts this season, 2.79 ERA, striking out over a batter per inning. Those are promising numbers. He's also right-handed, which is pretty key when you're going up against the New York Yankees, who have been significantly better by WRC plus against left-handed pitching than they have been against right-handed pitching. Although, since June 1st, it doesn't really matter. You could try throwing with either hand. They can't hit. They have an 82 WRC plus. They are hitting just above 215 in that span of time. You're just going to be picking on the Yankees at the end of the day. That's kind of the strategy we're going with at this point because, again, there's no real jump-out option if you're looking for a straight value pitcher tonight.
All right, Danny, what direction you going in here?
So as gross as it may seem, kind of as these guys are alluding to, not the best slate to choose from out of these pitchers under $8,000, but I'm going with Ross Stripling here. And I get it. His ERA is just atrocious at 6.11, but you look at his xFIP, 392. So he is expected to go in the positive direction when he's taken the bump. And he's only had 5 earned runs allowed in his last 4 starts. Now, he doesn't go too deep. So hopefully if he is limited, it's a quality over quantity type of thing here with Stripling. Yes, in a hitter's ballpark at the Great American Ballpark, but the wind seems to be coming across the field, not blowing out. In the Reds, since the start of this month, we know their bats are what carried them to the top of the Central for the time being. But now that they've slipped, so as their offense, they rank 20th in weighted runs created plus against right-handed pitching since the start of July. So again, you're going to have to dig deep, but I think Stripling could be a decent guy to look at, is more in that underdog position.
All right, guys, third base is a DFS bat that you are including in your lineup. Gary, and who's going to be producing some offense tonight?
Well, I'm going to go with one of the Reds. Look, I just think Ross Stripling, for everything that was just said, and it was accurate, I just worry about a pitcher whose biggest red flag this season has been his ability to keep the ball in the ballpark, and now he's got to go to Great American Ballpark and try to survive. Seems pretty risky, and especially right-handed bats have given Ross Stripling his biggest issue. He's a big changeup guy, so he has reverse splits, but 2.67 home runs per 9 to opposing right-handed bats. So just pick your favorite Red who happens to be right-handed. I'm going to go with Matt McClain, who's been amazing hitting at Great American Ballpark, as you would expect in his rookie season. 321 batting average with a 160 WRC plus and an isolated power above 300. I just think somebody's taking Ross Stripling deep tonight. It might as well be Matt McClain.
All right, Danny, a big bat you're including in your lineup is who?
All right, you can call me a homer. I am a Cubs fan, but I'm going with the red hot Cody Bellinger here. The last 11 games since July 4th exactly, this guy's got a 463 batting average, an OPS over 1,300, a weighted on-base average of 572, and he's averaging 15 fantasy points per game. Against Williams, he's gotten a few hits, a double, a couple home runs, and Williams, as we know, has been a struggling pitcher this season. 4.42 ERA, his xFIP is almost at 5. And against lefties, his xFIP is 5.64. His batting average of balls in play against the left-handed hitters, 303. So with the wind slightly blowing out, Cody Bellinger having that red hot bat, I think he can expose Williams tonight and have another good event there at the friendly confines.
All right, Tanner, who do you like?
Give me Spencer Torkelson for $3,800. I have to go against the grain a little bit because I did go heavy on my pitching options. So my price tag isn't as high for my bats, but I do like Torkelson for $3,800. Very good value price. Coming off a 3-for-5 night, he scored 2 runs. He hit 2 home runs and he had 5 RBIs against the Royals. So he is hot. I'm not saying he has that kind of night tonight, but hopefully he can get the job done and produce. Batting 283 in the month of July with a 345 OBP. So this is definitely looking up from what he's done earlier in the season. season. And he's going to go against Ryan Yarbrough, who's not the best pitcher in the world by any means. 5.29 ERA with a 1.27 whip. And he also isn't a big strikeout pitcher. And this is critical. Only 19 strikeouts in 32 innings. Royals have the 28th worst pitching staff in the league with a 5.27 ERA. So I like Torkelson to continue to stay hot at the plate. Hopefully drive in some runs tonight and score some fantasy points.
Potato chips, we are heading home, and as we cross home plate, we will go to the DK Sportsbook favorite run line or money line bet on this 8-game main slate. Danny.
I'm going with the Braves run line. I know it's more on the chalky side, about minus $1.20, but if we're going with the run line, I want to be able to trust an offense and then correlate that with a solid pitcher. And that's Morton and the Braves this evening against the Diamondbacks and Ryan Nelson. And more importantly, Nelson is a guy that I want to look to fade. His ERA is right below 5, and the underlying metrics aren't indicating he should improve. In fact, he should be even a little bit worse with a 5.06 xFIP. And more so, the Braves offense, they've had a lot of familiarity against Nelson, and they have done traditionally well against him. So I think they can continue that this evening, especially against the game last night that went deep. They fell victim. I think they can bounce back behind the legs of Morton there on the bump, and I think the Braves bats come alive and they could take advantage of Nelson. So give me the Braves run line tonight.
Tanner, talk to me.
I like the Tigers on the money line. It's been bet up to minus 145. I'm still going to play it here. And if you can get it at that, I would get it now because I see this line continuing to go up. When we look at Eduardo Rodriguez, the highest price pitcher on the slate tonight for DFS. He's going to have a huge night. 5-5 with a 2.7 ERA and a 1 whip. Going against Ryan Yarbrough, who just, again, has not delivered. I took Spencer Torkelson as my DFS hitter. And I do think the Tigers are going to have success off Yarbrough tonight. 5.29 ERA with a 1.27 whip. Both offenses are very similar in this spot, so I'm looking for that to almost cancel out. And I do think the Tigers have a better chance of hitting Yarbrough than the Royals have of hitting Rodriguez. And when it comes down to it, the Tigers are just a much better team. Even at 42-52, the Royals only have 28 wins on the season, and they're just 15-34 at home. So there's really no advantage to playing them with the plus money here. I like Detroit.
Take us home, Garion.
Well, I came on here a couple days ago, maybe even a week ago at this point, and talked about how I liked the Yankees to miss the playoffs. That was at plus 130 at the time. It is now minus 150, just for a little update. And they're going to lose again tonight. I'm taking the Angels on the money line at plus 115. Again, the Yankees just can't hit. They can't score any runs, and I don't think they'll take advantage of the pitching matchup disparity they have tonight. And it might not even be that big a disparity. I mean, Carlos Rodon, yes, he had to pitch at Coors Field his second game back off the IL, but he hasn't looked fantastic. The strikeout numbers have yet to be there at the major league level for Rodon. The Angels lineup's a little beat up, but they are 6th in WOBA this season against left-handed pitching, so they do have a nice platoon advantage in this particular matchup. The Yankees are just 2-8 in their last 10 games. They are 1-4 since the All-Star break. If I can take a team as a home dog against the New York Yankees right now, I'll do it every time. So plus 120, give me the Angels.
All right, thank you, fellas. Appreciate the time, as always.
Hell yeah, brothers.
Up next, we will be diving into NFL season-long player props that may be motivated by contract incentives. Interesting.
Okay. All right, let's turn our attention to the pigskin now. We're going to welcome in DraftKings contributor Pierce Dietrich and VSiN's Ben Wilson to a special edition, by the way, of The Sweat, presented by Comcast Business, powering possibilities with the next generation 10G network. NFL propped up. That's what we're calling this segment right now, and it's important. There's going to be a lot of numbers we're going to throw at you, but there's a reason for that. So we're going to dive into these player futures right now, listed on the DK Sportsbook, that may be motivated. Players who may be motivated by contract incentives, like
Daniel Jones.
Yeah, who right now doesn't have a running back.
Yeah, 4-year deal. He's got a new one that includes a bevy of incentives. Okay, they can add up to $35 million over that 4-year contract. So this season, he can earn up to $4 million in statistical incentives.
I know what that means.
If he hits all 3 passing yard benchmarks. So that would be throwing for over 4,550 yards or finishing top 5 in passing yards. He'll add an additional $1 million to his paycheck this season. That's a lot of zeros. His passing yards prop on the DK Sportsbook, though, it's currently listed at 3,300.5 yards. That's at plus 100. So Pierce, big discrepancy between what he would need to hit and what the book thinks he's going to hit. Where do you think he finishes this season?
Somewhere in between. I would be really surprised to see him hit those incentive marks. They're pretty high based on what he's done in the past, but he should cruise past 3,300. He was a very efficient passer last season, and that was his first year with Dable. It wasn't a big transformation year, but I would imagine in year 2, he's going to be a lot more improved. He exceeded most expectations last season, despite having an offensive line that was horrendous and wide receivers that were, I mean, who was even his wide receiver half the time? They were always injured. He basically was forced to throw the slot receiver every single time. So you got Paris Campbell coming in. I do like his receivers if they're healthy. I imagine Evan Neal in this offensive line is going to improve. But more importantly, second year with a successful coach in a system. He's had to change systems every single year. This could be a breakthrough year, but I don't think he's going to hit the incentives.
Yeah, Ben, was this a safe move for the Giants to put his incentive at this number?
I think so, and also, Jesse, I love the use of your word "bevy." One of my favorite words in the English language.
Oh, thank
Wow.
you.
For using that.
That is a big
But
word.
It is a big word. I'm a big fan of said word. I would say, as far as the incentives for Daniel Jones, I mean, he already committed highway robbery by getting 4 years over $25 million, so he should be fine with what he's got. And look, the Giants made the playoffs last year with a bottom 10 yard per play offense and defense. An offensive line that was among the league's worst. Now they have Saquon Barkley as a running back in all sorts of flux here. Doesn't really know what position he's going to be in with his lack of a extension getting done before that franchise tag deadline. So I look at Jones and I go, all right, his career high was 3,205 last year. Think about what Brian Daboll's head coach likes to do and why they had so much success last year. It was really, really smart in-game decisions as a coach, limiting possessions, not putting Daniel Jones in situations to kill the team. It was his lowest interception rate in his career last season. So I'm a little bit skeptical that all of a sudden, with a very minimal acquisitions being made and minimal improvements, that all of a sudden Daniel Jones is just going to be winging the ball all over the yard just because his running back isn't happy. That's not really the optimal strategy for success. So there's no way I'd be touching that over 3,300.5. Would not surprise me. If he's right at about that mark, it's still pretty low based on starting NFL quarterbacks, but would not want to bet that thing over.
All right, let's talk about Vikings running back Alexander Madison. Hitting over 750 rushing yards will give him an additional $250K. We're going to push that to $500,000 if he eclipses 1,000 yards on the ground. Rushing prop on the DK Sportsbook, Ben, sits at 900.5, plus 100 odds there. What's your confidence level in him hitting his rushing prop over?
Well, it's a fascinating player just because we've never seen him in this role before, right? It's always been that change of pace secondary back. But I would worry about betting that thing over just because he's not really been very efficient anyway when he's gotten his opportunities, barely over 4 yards per carry in his career. This is also an offense that, if you think about what Kevin O'Connell did last year, it's not really a pound the rock, run first strategy. They want to get the ball to their studs. They want Justin Jefferson to be out in space. Kirk Cousins, I like the passing numbers if you're going to bet overs on the Vikings this year, especially with how that defense has tended to struggle. They get in a lot of shootouts, a lot of over-type games. That results in fewer carries for your running back when you are either chasing or you're putting up big chunk plays from a pass yardage standpoint. So, and it kind of leads to my whole thought process as a whole with these is there are so many ways for guys to go unders compared to guys going over. Like, you could have injury, poor performance, team isn't very good. You're not in optimal situations to get carries, especially if you're running back. So I'm not willing to just go, oh, well, now he's the number one back, so he's automatically going to skyrocket over. I haven't seen much. His career doesn't really indicate that he's all of a sudden going to just explode and be a 900-yard rusher this year.
All right, Pierce, he's finally getting his chance to start in Minnesota. What are the chances he's as dominant as his predecessor, though?
Ben's depressing me. This is going to be like the
right?
boring NFL season ever. Everyone's going to do nothing. I'll go with the over. I like this offense. I know that it is pass first, but they do have a really good run blocking unit. And you just look at the numbers. I know he's not Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin Cook went for over 1,100 yards in 4 straight seasons, 250 carries. You give me Madison at 250 carries. I like those numbers. Yeah, he hasn't really excelled as a change of pace back or number 2. If you go back to 2021, though, where he actually got to be a number 1 back for several games, he averaged 100 rushing yards per game. So I think there's plenty left in the tank. The opportunity is there. But really what I like is he has a good offensive line in front of him, so he definitely has the opportunity to hit 1,000 yards.
Okay, guys, Baltimore signed Odell Beckham Jr. 1-year deal, $15 million, additional $3 million available in incentives. So his benchmarks for each million include 60 receptions or leading the team, 1,000 receiving yards or leading the team, 9 touchdowns or leading the team. His receiving yards prop on the DK Sportsbook is 575.5 at -110. His receiving touchdown prop sitting at 4.5. That's plus 110. So, Pierce, which of these props listed do you think he hits? And I mean, is it possible that he finishes the season hitting all 3?
This is my turn to be Debbie Downer. I say he goes under on all of these. The fact that these numbers are so low should tell us everything that we need to know about Beckham and where he is and what could go wrong or just the direction Baltimore could go in. You've got running backs that are healthy. You've got a good offensive line. Maybe that's the direction that they go in. You also have the new offensive coordinator coming in. I'm not a big fan of bringing in the hotshot college coordinator. It's a lot of change, a lot of things happening. Ultimately, to me, it feels like Beckham was just a chess move. It was an olive branch to get Lamar to sign. I think the sports book is on the same page when we have the numbers as low as they are. Give the ball to the running backs, develop the rookie wide receiver. Beckham's just kind of going to be out there.
All right, Ben, do you think Beckham's just kind of going to be out there?
Yeah, well, look, Pierce, welcome to the right side of thinking. Nobody's ever gone broke betting against human achievement. Okay, that's one of those long-time betting strategies that has always been very good. Yeah, Beckham is more of the same. If you were really bullish on him, the only thing I would look to bet is the 4.5, the touchdown receptions over, simply because with a new offensive coordinator coming in and Todd Monken, Baltimore's made it very clear they want to pass some more. And sure, even if Beckham is only healthy for 11, 12 games, there still could be that potential given the new wave of offense we're going to see. But yeah, what's the over/under on when Beckham first has a soft tissue strain or tear, or when is he seen on some airplane or boat looking incapacitated? Like week 7.5, that would be my over/under on that. So definitely unders on the season-long, like on the full yardage stuff. I don't hate if you wanted to take a sprinkle on the over touchdown simply because that's more of a random event sequencing type of deal. And I could see him getting a few targets in the red zone this year while he's still healthy.
You two were born to do segments together. This is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Your job is done. Jeff Ulrich, who is typically Johnny Over, is going to join us after this break with Jason Sobel. We're going to hit on best bets for the Open Championship. We're going to wrap up the show right after this. Hey, everybody, welcome back to an extremely special edition of The Sweat presented by Comcast Business, powering possibilities with the next generation 10G network. That is powerful and strong, and so is this segment. And so is our final major of the year this weekend. We got the help of our friends from Comcast Business focusing on said major.
Yes, let's start things off by looking at the Comcast Business Tour Top 10, which emphasizes player performance by rewarding the top 10 players in the FedEx Cup standings at the end of the FedEx Cup regular season. So you're looking at the current standings heading into this weekend's Open Championship. And let's bring in DK contributor Jeff Ulrich and the Action Network's Jason Sobel to talk about it.
It's Sobel, actually.
Oh, stop it. You guys, you know what? It is the Renaissance Club, and you're just jealous that you didn't know how to pronounce it, even though I didn't either, and Jason had to correct me the first time.
All right.
Jesse, I'm with you. Me and Jesse are on the same page here.
Thank you very much.
Sure. And you know,
it's
you
called being cultured. You wouldn't get it. You uncultured swine.
All right, Jay, let's talk round one at Royale Liverpool. It starts early tomorrow morning for us East Coast folks. So for those looking to bet a first round leader or top 5, top 10 bet, who are you taking?
Well, first of all, I told the producers I was only taking questions from Jesse today. I would answer this just out of the professionalism that I have, but I didn't really want to talk to Emerson. Okay. In any case, first round leader plays. Look, I've been all over the map with first round leaders. You try to pick a long shot, and it's Rory McIlroy. And you're like, of course it's Rory McIlroy. He's really good. Why wouldn't he have the low score on a Thursday? And then you play Rory McIlroy, and it's some guy who's 400-1 that comes out of nowhere and posts a 62 on a Thursday morning. So, look, these aren't easy. There's a lot of volatility, a lot of variance, and so I'm going to take one of the most volatile players out there and a guy that I like picking for single round investments, and that's Jordan Spieth. He's 40-1 for a first round leader play this week. We all know that Jordan plays well on links golf courses, top 20 finishes in each of the last 5 Open Championships. I'm not so sure that I trust him right now. I don't know if his game is where it needs to be for a 4-round investment, but can he roll in 3 or 4 30-footers for birdie and go low, shoot a 64, 65 on Thursday to get the first round lead? Absolutely.
Jeff Ulrich, how about a Jordan Smith first round leader?
Hey, look, thanks for the lead-in, because this is exactly the player I want to talk about. There's a couple names I've got locked and loaded for the first round, but Jordan Smith, again, I mean, we talked about him in the DFS segment as being good value, but you can get this guy at big odds, and you can get him like to top 5, top 10 in the first round at plus 2,800 and plus 1,200. This is a guy who gained like over 6 strokes ball striking against a good field last week. Again, T12, 20th at the U.S. Open. We're just talking about one round of golf here, too. He's going to keep it in play off the tee. He's extremely strong in that area. The putter wakes up for a round here. We've got all sorts of upside. I think that's the target. Jordan Smith also, we got to talk a little bit about tee times here. He's got a nice sort of late morning tee time. So, you know, if the wind does get up in the afternoon, he's just going to be in a really good spot. That would be my long shot. And I'm going to go with another Open champion with Colin Morikawa as a guy. If you want to get like an early, late sort of hedging thing going, Colin Morikawa is a very late afternoon tee time. But look, we also know that the wind can just come and go here. Colin Morikawa's plus 4,000 for a first-round leader. Been great with his irons. He's gaining confidence. It would not shock me on this course if he put up a 64 to start here. I think he's starting to really get it together, and he's just a guy I want some exposure to, and I think first-round leader for Colin Morikawa makes a lot of sense this week.
All right, Jason, looking to honor your request and only let you answer questions for me. Who's a like long-ish shot golfer? So talking like plus 1,000 or higher that you're eyeing to finish in the top 10 this weekend. Like we've said, this seems to be happening a lot.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting that we tend to look at the Open Championship as the one that might give us the biggest lottery ticket. We think back to the days of Ben Curtis and Todd Hamilton and say, anyone can win this thing. It's worth putting some big numbers out there. That said, over the past decade, this has not been the case. We have had only two players at 80-1 and nothing bigger than that. We've had 6 of the last 9, 25-1 or shorter. So really, we're expecting to see some chalk at the top. I'm not going too deep, but I will give you the guy that I liked last week, and his numbers gotten higher after missing the cut, even though he shot 72-67 at the Scottish Open, not like Adam Scott is that far off, but I think he was trending in the right direction going into last week. A proven links player who plays really well in these conditions on these types of courses. So I like Adam Scott, who's right around 60 to 1. If you got in about 24 hours ago, 48 hours ago at 80 to 1, congratulations. Gotten a little shorter since then. A couple other guys. We're all forgetting about Louis Oosthuizen. He went to live. Jeff, that's your favorite guy. I thought we were going to hear all about Louis.
I did not think we'd get a Louis Oosthuizen mention, at least from Jason. I mean, I would probably going to mention him at some point, but okay. No, sorry, go on. I won't.
Jeff, the guy's 40 years old. We treat him like he's 60. I get that he's an old 40. He's been injured. He's younger than Scott. He's younger than Justin Rose. He's a year older than Dustin Johnson. He's 6 years older than Rory and Ricky. I mean, the guy still has some good golf left in front of him. He has won an Open Championship, of course, and he's got a couple of other top 3 finishes. And then I'll throw one more guy that fits all those criteria with another big number in front of his name, another player that left for Live, but he won this thing 7 years ago in one of the more epic battles we've ever seen in a major. Henrik Stenson, look, I'm not saying Henrik Stenson's going to win this thing, but watch out for Henrik Stenson just playing well. And one more name for you for, again, more of a top 10. He's not going to win, but Padraig Harrington's 51 years old and he hit it further than he ever has before. Watch out for Padraig this week.
All right, we got our eye on him. Jeff, who do you have your eye on?
I mean, going down the board, I mean, I do think that looking at veterans makes a lot of sense at the Open. I mean, this is not like a super complicated course. Hideki Matsuyama is another name, kind of like Adam Scott. On Monday, Hideki Matsuyama was plus 10,000 to win this event on DraftKings. And you know what? His number has fallen. It's plus 6,000 now. I really don't think the plus 6,000 is still not a bad number. You look at what Matsuyama was doing before Detroit. 1 missed cut, 2 rounds. Who cares? It's really only 1 bad round. Gaining massive amounts of ball strike. It's going to be his 9th Open Championship start. I mean, top 10 on his first attempt here. I think this is a really good setup for him as well. It's just a little bit more technical. And then Siwoo Kim is another player, just plenty of upside. His number's down now to plus 10,000, but just his ball striking has been immaculate all year. And it's just really a question of if Siwoo gets confident with the putter, he's going to go low on a course like this, a softer course. So a couple players I like there as well. Chris Kirk is another veteran I'd really have my eye on. Was gaining strokes on approach and with the putter in his last start. So some longer shots there, guys available, especially Kirk at like plus 1,200 for a top 10. I think that's really good, just a really good bet to make.
Gentlemen, the cherry on top, the moment everyone watching at home has been waiting for. Who are you betting to win the Open Championship, final major of the year, Jeff?
I'm betting Victor Hovland, but I mean, my pick is just going to be that Tommy Fleetwood finally gets this done. That we've just been crescendoing to this all season long. I know it's a chalk pick. I know everyone's probably betting Tommy too, but let's just stick with our guy here. I think Fleetwood has what it takes to get it done in a major. I think this is going to be a real good spot with him. So I'm going to go with Fleetwood as he's on my betting card and at plus 2,500. We're just going to roll the dice one more time here.
His caddy lives here as well. Jason, your pick to win.
Really like Tommy Fleetwood. I've got outrights on Tyrrell Hatton, who I think has a lot of parallels to Fleetwood in sort of win equity and how often he's been inside the top 10. I've got an outright on Ricky Fowler, on Adam Scott, who I just mentioned a minute ago. But my guy this week is the other guy that Jeff mentioned that he has, Victor Hovland. I've had him circled on my calendar for this one for a long time now. I watched him after the PGA Championship when he double bogeyed the 70th hole of the week, took himself out of contention. He looked like a different player, like a switch was flipped inside of him. He was mad, steam coming out of his ears. And I said, that guy's going to win, and he's going to win very soon. He did 2 weeks later at the Memorial Tournament, and I think more good things are coming. We talk about the big 3 in the game right now, Rory, Scotty, and Rahm. Instead of figuring out which one is best, I think we have to ask the question, who joins them next? I think that player is Victor Hovland. I think it starts this week.
Excellent work, gentlemen. Thank you for giving us your picks. This has been a special edition of The Sweat presented by Comcast Business. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m.